workers. The amount of energy and attention that those guys put to seeing who steps on the grass within Kampala capital city should be the same energy that should be expended in other areas of service delivery. Let me throw that to my guest shortly and see exactly what he thinks about this particular policy. I'm not saying it's a bad one, but I'm thinking the grass in the city and in this country is not our greatest asset. There are things we should mind more about. But the 2025-2026 national budget, which officially came into effect on 1st of July, which was yesterday, has ushered in several key changes that are bound to impact the business landscape in Uganda. As is customary, business, large and small, need to stay on top of emerging policies, tax adjustments, as well as regulatory shifts to ensure compliance, optimize operations and take advantage of new incentives. For entrepreneurs, particularly those in the small and medium sectors, the national budget offers both challenges and opportunities. But what exactly is in it for them? I have with me the Executive Director of the Federation for Small and Medium Enterprises, that is FSME, John Walugembe, joining us for this morning's discussion. You're welcome to Morning at NTV, Mr. Walugembe.
Thank you, Chris. It's always a pleasure to be here.
My sincere apologies for throwing you into the deep end as we begin. I hope it's not really a deep end for you.
No, it's not a deep end. I think you see there's a statement where they say that some people major in minors. You see? So ideally you're supposed to focus on critical things. If you're looking at a city, we're supposed to say, how do we set up a city to create jobs? How do we improve infrastructure? How do we address the bottlenecks? And government, thankfully, has prioritized in NDP for the greater Kampala metropolitan area. And that's why you see there are extensive investments in infrastructure. Now, our colleagues at KCCA should fit within that matrix. But instead of promoting and saying this is government strategy, we are building roads, we want more businesses, we want to make it easier, we want to do this, we want to do that. They focus on small issues around enforcement, running after hawkers, harassing these women who have capital of 100,000 and taking them to KCCA court and confiscating their products and then arresting people that, oh, you have crossed a loan here. Yes, it's important, but in the wider scheme of things, it's irrelevant. So for me, I would say that it's an issue of lack of proper prioritization of issues.
I think it should be worked on, because when you look at the numbers of youth and other individuals that are on remand on account of stepping on the grass, this is a whole 2 weeks or even 3
this small
of lost manpower because somebody is trying to jump.
Yes, and we mustn't create a legal system that's very harsh with small actors and then is kind of lax
on the big criminals.
Yes, we must ensure that there's fairness, and I think this whole issue around KCCA and how it handles hawkers and small, these are things that we must discuss. And unfortunately, if KCCA does this, other parts of the country benchmark. If you see, when KCCA started cleaning the city, sweeping and so on, Fort Portal looked cleaner, Lira looked cleaner, Gulu looked cleaner. So Kampala sets the pace. So KCCA should think carefully about some of these actions. We are not saying it should allow a laissez-faire environment where everyone does whatever. But we are saying, where do you place focus, or where do you start?
Beauty must be something that we expect KCCA
to first build a good house, then you concentrate on decoration
and stuff like that. All right, now let's step into the Kickstarter discussion. I just want to ask a very a general question. The budget is now well understood, especially by people including you in the business world and space. The new financial year is effectively underway. As small and medium enterprises, I know there is a lot of hope that the policy rollout is one that has looked to be tilting towards the pain points that you've consistently talked about. What do you make of this as the new financial year begins?
No, first of all, we appreciate the consistency in budget making. you know, you cannot achieve things in a year or two. Some things take a while.
Yeah.
So by government choosing to focus on certain core things, namely the full monetization of the economy, namely agro-industrialization, digital transformation, market access, increasing access to services, this, and then staying consistent over years. I think, first of all, that's a good approach that we should appreciate government for. Secondly, aligning the budget with the national development plan. Not previously, we used to have what we call a misalignment, but increasingly you see a critical alignment between NDP, whether 3 or 4, and the budget, which is okay. And now this is the first budget under what we call NDP 4. Now, in terms of, and I don't want to go into the figures and so on, I want to look at the general thrust of the budget. If you look at the general thrust, government is saying that it will increase the economy, the size of the economy, 10 times to $500 billion by 2040. And
15 years.
Yes. And for it to achieve that, it is saying that we are going to be focusing on what is called the ATMs. And first is agro-industrialization.
Agro-industrialization.
As you know, as viewers might know, Uganda is an agricultural country. Oh, we have been an agricultural country in the past, because what I see is that we are losing the medal to our neighbors, because we are now importing everything. We are importing gonja from DRC. We are importing tomatoes and onions from Tanzania. We are importing Irish. We are importing mangoes, you see. So very soon we shall be importing matoke, you know, and then we shall be food insecure.
Matoke?
No, I'm saying very soon.
Okay.
Yes, very soon, because if we keep, you know, if we project and we are consistent with this trajectory, means at some point we shall be food insecure, depending either on Tanzania or some of our neighbors. So agro-industrialization is important. We still have an advantage there, but I think we can do better in terms of productivity of the sector and production.
Okay.
Then government is also focusing, and this year's budget they allocated about 1.86 trillion to agro-industrialization. Then tourism development. Under tourism development, as you know, it's easy money. They are low-hanging fruits. People come, spend money, and go. And here, government wants to focus on branding Uganda to make sure that more people visit. But I see sometimes we contradict ourselves. You see every small negative thing, because we broadcast it to the world. Oh, we have a Marburg breakout. Please, Ugandans, be careful. Then you discover it's not even a breakout. And then you can't come to say, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. So these kind of uncoordinated movements from a brand perspective, I think, need to be fixed as we talk about tourism.
The tourism.
Secondly, we need to ensure that there's good infrastructure in the tourism areas. Roads, you know, roads, entertainment places, and so on. So these kinds of investments are not just by government, but the private sector as well. So government has allocated about 430 billion towards the tourism development space. Then government is also focusing on mineral beneficiation. And the key thing here is that government wants to map out and identify where are the minerals, what minerals does Uganda have. Second, government wants to invest in the national mining company, capitalize the national mining company. So government has put about 875 billion into this mining space. And if we consider, that also includes finalizing the pipeline and so on. And if we consider that oil and gas production will start soon, it means that then this sector becomes very, very important in terms of contributing to the growth of our economy. Now, finally, we have the science, technology, and innovation space, where government also is to spend substantial sums to ensure that Uganda remains competitive. I also want to note that government is going to invest in the standard gauge railway to improve the time that it takes to bring goods from Mombasa to here. As a landlocked country, this becomes very important. Rail reduces the cost of transport and is able to ensure that we operate in an environmentally friendly manner. So these are some of the key things that are in this budget. We also have the wealth creation programs, as we know.
A continuation of already existing.
We have the parish development model. Government is investing an extra 1 trillion. We have the Uganda Development Bank, where government is also putting 1 trillion. We have a Myoga, where government is putting about 100 billion. And then we have the agricultural credit facility, where government is putting about 50 billion. So it shows that government is still continuing in this direction of supporting people who are outside the money economy to come within. Because you have to catalyze demand. You can't have business people who are rich and the masses are poor.
Creating products for no one to buy.
For no one to buy. So I think it's okay. Obviously, certain things need to be improved. You know, how do we coordinate better? There have been certain inefficiencies in terms of implementation. Sometimes there is politicization, especially now that we are approaching the election period. So how do we ensure that these programs are not misdirected by some, either by politicians or whatever? So this is the overall kind of
that's quite a positive outlook, and I'm sure it pretty falls well within what the World Bank forecasts for the next few years to come. And of course, the supporting businesses is crucial. Now, within the ATMS, it's confusing. Sometimes the officials from the ministry like to say ATMs. Then another one tells you, please say ATMS. But at the end of the day, it's down to the thinking that in order for you to withdraw after so many years in terms of the vision that the government has, you must be able to deposit sufficiently.
To invest.
So if Uganda won't invest, we might not be able to withdraw from this ATM later.
Correct.
That is the thinking behind this whole thing. But sometimes the talking about it does a misrepresentation. When you look at the agro-industrialization prong, there are so many small and medium-scale enterprises that are in there, especially when it comes to produce. When I look at, for example, Kisenyi area, where there's a lot of milling, the cost of maize flour, the cost of beans, the cost of soy, and all these other cereals usually fluctuates.
Correct.
The fluctuation is something that offers no certainty for somebody to say, this is what I'm going to invest in order to make money. Does this budget offer an opportunity for those, for example, in Kisenyi, in Waise, who are into milling, to fully understand how best they can reap benefits?
Well, within the agro-industrialization, what I see is that government is putting a lot of focus on irrigation. It's also investing money in research, especially around the anti-tick vaccines. It's also constructing 11 agro-processing and storage facilities
across the country,
countrywide. In Chenjojo, in Toroko, in Aleptong, and in Bunyangaba, among others. And then what we also see is that government is also putting money in UDC to invest in local businesses in Budadiri, Soroti Fruit Factory, Kayonza Tea Factory, among others. My concern with this prioritization is that it's government coming in directly in many instances. It's not supporting. Yes, if going and building your own facilities, investing in government is okay, because we said government has a role to play, but at the same time, we shouldn't see too much government.
Okay.
Yes, because then you are going to compete with the people you are supposed to regulate and pick taxes from. So we are saying, yes, government come, but support us. If you're investing money in UDC to support businesses, that's okay. If you're investing money in UDC to just, restart certain white elephant projects and so on, then that might be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm therefore in the agro-industrialization space, I'm appealing for balance. Let's look at how our agricultural sector is set up. You have smallholder farmers. If you say want to make if you say want to add value, it means you're going to have to promote cottage industries to add value. Having one big factory like Salty Fruit Factory, as you know, often doesn't achieve the kind of results that we would want. On the other hand, if you support these cooperatives to set up small establishments where they add value to their mangoes in that locality, because if you standardize and you have one, you find that the varieties are different, and this is what the challenge that this establishment experience.
And that's
so for me, I would promote cottage industries as opposed to investing in large-scale things. They are good from a media perspective, pictures, it shows progress, but in terms of impact.
How about economies of scale, especially when it comes, when over-fragmentation usually leads to returns being scattered?
No, our economy is, you know, and this is the challenge I have with many policymakers. Our economy is composed of smallholder farmers, is composed of SMEs.
Yeah.
We cannot create miracles where they are not. You have structural problems, you have logistical problems. If you have very many small farmers who are scattered, how do you support these people to add value? Where they? How do you group them? How do you cluster them so into cooperatives? If you're setting up a large establishment like, you should allow primary processing to take place where the farmer is, and then you engage in large secondary processing, packaging, and exports. You see, so it's that complementarity that we are looking for. Don't try to say, oh, the farmer should only grow mangoes and bring them to me, and I handle the process. And now,
whatever happens,
it's not that simple. And I keep people saying, oh, we want to eliminate middlemen. I just tell them, good luck. Yeah, good luck. Because these middlemen are trying to address a lot of inefficiencies. They go out there, they look for the farmer, they negotiate, they advance them money, they do this, they do that. So by eliminating them, whom are you replacing them with?
Okay.
Yeah.
That heavy lifting needs to be done by somebody.
Correct.
And I hope that the new raft of policies can address that. Now, on Monday, the President ascended to a raft of bills that are going to either lessen the burden, especially for SMEs, but most importantly, be able to bring in some added revenue on the part of Uganda Revenue Authority. We have the Value Added Tax Amendment Act, the Stamp Duty Amendment Act 2025, the Excise Duty Amendment Act, the Tax Procedures Code Amendment Act, the Supplementary Appropriation Act, the Hides and Skins Export Duty, as well as the External Trade Amendment Act. Those are 9 in total. I don't know whether you've had time to go through the various amendments embedded within each, but let's quickly look at what it means for the assent to these particular bills that are now effectively law.
Okay, so I'll just highlight the key things in each. One is income tax. The key changes under income tax is that government has granted a 3-year income tax holiday for startup businesses owned by citizens that are formed after 1st July 2025. This is the support these kinds of businesses to better survive. And you know, this is something we have been pushing for a long time. So we have to appreciate government for finally doing something. It's not 100%, we want more.
Okay.
Yes, because you can't exempt it from income tax.
Oliver
and then you allow.
All right.
So we are telling government in the next budget, please also exempt them from VAT. Yes, because the VAT threshold is very low. If you've now raised this exemption 500 million, and now your VAT threshold is still at 150 million, so it means these people will still be trapped in the compliance, you know, in the compliance challenge. Then government has also
before we go to that, let's stay at income tax and understand exactly how startups could actually benefit most. Now, in the run-up to the reading of the budget, of course, the budget framework paper was out long before the budget reading, and people understood what was going to happen after 1st of July. There was a series, and I think not a series, but a pattern of deregistration
By who?
I know a group of people who deregistered.
So they registered.
So that they registered.
Fine. You're benefiting from the law.
Okay.
You see, that's the point. Any business person should optimize their affairs to benefit the most from existing laws, so long as it's not illegal. If you're deregistering, there are processes of deregistering. If you follow them and deregister and you register again, fine. Investors have been doing this all the time, haven't they? They come here, they benefit from a 10-year tax holiday. As it expires, they register a new one.
Then again, they are eligible for it.
He comes as Walugembe Enterprises. In the 9th year, he registers as Walu Enterprises. Then he runs for another 9 years. And the 9th year, he registers as Walugembe Enterprises. It's okay.
I understand, but my concern is at what cost to the economy?
No, there's no cost, so long as no, definitely there's a cost in the sense that the government loses some, but we must look beyond that direct taxes we pick from businesses. There are other things. A business creates jobs. A business does other things, creates harmony. Business is a center for training and innovation. You see, the other day, and I'll give you this story. My car, because for us we drive old cars, unfortunately. My car's had a gearbox problem. I took it to a training institute, the best in Uganda that teaches mechanics. And the master trainer failed to resolve it. But we went downtown and got some fellow who didn't go to school, and he sorted it. You see? So this is the point. Where did that boy learn from? He learned from a business. So it means that business training is even better, the training within a business.
Institutional training.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a whole new challenge.
Definitely. And it means government, therefore, should promote industry-based training where possible if you want to create jobs. So,
the hands-on training.
Businesses do many things apart from taxes. So if Mr. Walugembe and his business continue and are able to benefit from some tax relief, but they are continuing, they are still paying employees and so on, it's still a positive to the economy. So I would say that's a good thing.
All right.
Second, government has exempted individuals who transfer assets from their names into company names. So I have been run. Not many people are not registered, as you know. Someone runs his business. He just works up.
Of informality is one that is also.
Yes, he just says I'm Amoti and sons or daughters limited, but it's not registered. You know. So, and you buy assets and stuff in your name. If you choose to transfer these into the company name, previously you had to pay capital gains tax. You have been exempted. This is to ensure formalization, not to penalize individuals who are transitioning into the formal sector. And then the Bujagali hydropower project was exempted from income tax. So these are the key things under the income tax.
Bujagali being a critical power provider, yes, maybe it makes sense. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Great. Then there's what they call the Tax Procedures Amendment Act 2025, and the key change here is that now NINs, National Identification Numbers, will be used instead of tax identification numbers for tax purposes. For tax
collection. I think that's a good one. It kind
good and bad. Good in the sense that it reduces multiple, like for a taxpayer, for an existing taxpayer, it simplifies life. But also for you, it makes it easier to understand that this is Walugembe. But with teens, sometimes it would be a bit hard.
It would be hard.
So it would be easier to pin you.
And then one business can generate as many teens as can have.
Well, it was illegal.
It was illegal,
but URA was finding it hard to fight. But on the flip side, you're going to flood the tax register with people who will never pay tax in the next 20 years. The other 35% who are outside the money economy. You bring a farmer in the village who does not earn 1,000 shillings in a month on the tax register. See?
Because you have the NIN.
Because you have the NIN. So you're just going to have a big bloated tax register, but with few taxpayers.
Interesting there.
So, but in a perfect scenario, if everyone was paying tax and so on, it would be a very good innovation.
But again, the ability of that particular framework to be able to pinpoint each person, especially those that are effectively transacting within the economy at all points of transaction. They're able to monitor and know that Chris is transacting here, there, and there, which I think is different from the previous, where you could only monitor Chris from one point. You can now know that he's actually transacting from 8 points, and that is ability to broaden the tax base.
Not broaden, sometimes deepen. Your tax increase more.
More.
You're taxing him on the fuel, you're taxing him where you're taxing, but can also improve advocacy. The sense that if Chris has access to that data, he can go to government and say, but I'm paying you 60% of all my earnings. You're charging me stamp duty on my land, you're charging me fuel when I travel, you're charging me for data, you're charging me for airtime, you're charging me, you're charging me pay as you earn, you know, so that...
And then after that, you're told you're paying less tax. So interesting. What is the other?
Then on the issue of value-added tax.
Value-added tax, yep.
The key changes is that the changes is to reduce anti-fragmentage of imported goods. You see, some importers would import small quantities many times in order to avoid hitting the VAT threshold. So now here, in the new amendment, they won't consider. They won't consider. So long as the aggregate value reaches a threshold, you'll be asked to. And then the other issue is that biomass pellets and solar lanterns have been exempted from VAT. And then the supply of aircraft has been zero rated. So those who are rich enough to... I think this amendment is for Uganda Airlines.
We're going to have people buying private jets more?
No, I think this particular thing is to benefit Uganda Airlines. But if there are rich people who want to buy planes, it makes it easier for people to purchase private jets.
How much is the helicopter?
I don't have a clue.
All right.
I don't have.
And then there is something similar to that, the groupage policy, one that has a lot of importers coming together and using a single package. Yet it is fragmented.
Yeah, because people are poor. You see, very few Ghanaians can go and import a container and it's theirs. So what happens is that these small traders will group themselves under one person to say, buy for me this, buy for me, buy for me this, buy for me this. Now the challenge is that that was resulting in fraud in VAT returns. So this big guy can declare tax on behalf of the others. On behalf of the others. And maybe declare it as input tax and so on. Benefits him, doesn't benefit the actual people importing. Then the other issue is that they could blackmail these people. URA needs tax of this much. So for instance, if URA needs tax of 100,000, I come to you, I say, URA needs tax of 500. 1 million. And you're stuck. You can't. You can't confirm. You can't what? You know. So now URA is going to make it easier to identify each of the goods under a container with the actual importer importing those goods. So the policy itself is not going to change. It's just going to make it easier for URA to know who is actually who is the actual importer in this instance, and reduce those loopholes that were there before.
All right. Yeah. What's the other?
Okay, so then I talked about then there's the issue of excise duty. You know, there's excise duty tends to be on certain types of excisable goods, and in this instance, government is proposing a remission of excise duty on damaged, expired, or obsolete goods, because of digital stamps, manufacturers were being forced to pay tax on goods that expire, on goods that are damaged, and so on. So here, that has provided some relief and fairness to those manufacturers. And then there has been some increases in excise duty rates, like on cigarettes, so that smokers will have to. Gasoline, there has been a slight increase. They have removed excise duty on beer produced from barley that's grown domestically, which is good because it supports the growth of this value chain. So I think overall the tax measures are not adverse, they are balanced. And they seek to, on one hand, raise domestic revenue, but improve also fairness and and compliance.
All right, I'm afraid we don't have a lot of time. As NTV, I think we shall be finding more space, especially within the other aspects of our broadcasting products, so that we can break down the detail of many of these laws, especially in light of their contribution and how SMEs are going to be affected. We would like to thank you for your perspective. It's always emboldening to our understanding of these